What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 100, 315. That was like 4 years ago. That was 100.
Pretty much.
I was scrambling to get my notes up, and then I just said 100. Anyways, it's episode 315 of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Joining us this week over the Skype, all the way out on the West Coast, is artist Kory Hubbell. Kory, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's we're gonna have
Good
a
to
lot
be
of
here.
fun today. It's I'm probably gonna do a little bit of gushing as I tend to do, and we're just gonna go. Alex, I'm gonna let you take off the because typically all the really Alex is really good at finding people. That's what I'm gonna say.
I try.
Yeah. Yep. And typically it's, hey, I found this person, and I usually get like an Instagram profile or a Facebook page, and then I go, oh, fuck yeah. And then it's like, okay, good, because we're going to do it on Thursday. And, okay, rad. Awesome. And Alex found Kory, and now here we are.
Being
Yeah.
comic book fans, when I started our Instagram page, I started looking at people to follow, and I was like, oh, let's start looking at all the artists because we're such big fans of art. And then it got into like, well, I really like all this design work and people who might not do sequential art, and like, well, you don't have to draw Superman in tights all the time. And I see people drawing like amazing sequences of robots or armor or just layers and layers, so many things. And I'm like, I want to follow all these people too. And at some point, that's when I found Kory. And I don't recall how long I've been following your Instagram for. And recently, about a month ago, all these like cool
Concept.
like medieval armors kind of started showing up. I'm like, what's this? And
Inspired.
yeah. And you know what?
Now that you mention it, yeah.
I was telling JR, I had a very strong Phil Hester vibe off of it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me Google that. No, I'm just kidding. I totally know who that is.
Absolutely.
Phil Hester drew the Kevin Smith Green Arrow run for about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to Google it too. Yeah.
I am so bad with names in general and artist names. Like I feel like I've seen this art before, but I didn't know the name. But I definitely see that. Yeah, heavy black shadows. Filling up a lot of areas with ink. His is probably real ink.
And so, once I find someone, I go, I think I want to talk to this person. I have to do some reviewing and make sure there's enough to talk about. And then I go, oh man, I hope we could fit this into one episode. Because we want to talk about this Kickstarter that you design work for and that you're a part of with Brutality. But I also, you did work on Halo 4 and 5. And there's a art class that you teach as well. Or having instructional, and so it's like, where do we start?
Yeah, we got a lot to cram into this week, and it should be a good time. I don't even.
Cool.
Where do you want to start?
Let's go with the Kickstarter.
Let's do
right off.
We're starting right off the bat.
Sure. I'd love to talk about this Kickstarter.
What's
Please.
Because I'm looking at the page here. There's a Kickstarter for a game called Brutality, which you are sitting pretty funded a lot of money. What's the deal with this game?
Pretty much goes to costs. That's the thing with Kickstarter is a lot of that goes to just getting that game out the door so that we can then hopefully make some more copies and sell it along the way. But we just hit, where are we at? We're at 73,000 and a half, 73,500. So we just unlocked a new stretch goal. It's pretty exciting. I'm not sure what to say about it.
How'd you get involved with the project?
Yeah, so Stephen Frost, I worked with him at Carbine. I don't know if you've heard of the game WildStar. I guess it's still going. There's an MMO called WildStar that I worked on for a while, and he was the designer on it at the time, and we both parted ways. He went to Blizzard for a while. I went back up to 3.4. So I was at 3.43 on Halo 4, went down to WildStar, and then went back up to Halo 5. I kind of got in contact with them again, and I couldn't resist working on Halo again. So he contacted me, and then I went to Amazon a while after that. So I'm in Amazon now, and about a year ago, he contacted me and he was hitting me up saying, hey, I remember your art from WildStar. Or do you have any interest in doing a Kickstarter? And he ran a Kickstarter for a comic previously called Mortifera, which is a really cool project. You should look that up. She might be your next guest on the show. But he did that Kickstarter, and I thought that was really cool. And so he also did these these dev speak videos that I was a huge fan of. And so I just really liked his personality, and I figured, and he's a really great designer, and I just thought he'd be a really good person to kind of hitch my wagon to. So yeah, that's kind of how it got started, and we just started. He was really great in that he had a lot of characters already thought out. He had a whole world and a whole IP, and he just kind of handed stuff to me and let me run with it.
Was it really as basic as draw me a scary pilgrim-looking guy with a lantern?
No, it was more like he would have kind of like a backstory, and he would say, here's kind of the general feel of what they might wear, and I usually would modify that to what I thought was, I would throw my own ideas in there. So I would say, I actually asked him, can you write up briefs for characters? Because I didn't want to play guessing games if he had an idea in his head already. I love when designers either let me do everything, or you tell me what it is, because I don't want to argue. I don't want to sit and argue about these different things. And he's definitely a person who kind of knows what he wants design wise, and I actually really appreciate that. Because everything's balanced, and he's like, well, this guy's a tank, so he should, for God Killer, should be really tall. And so I guess I didn't really know that he was supposed to be a tank at the time. I sent back this sketch of this really lanky, kind of stretched out guy. He's like, no. We gotta be fun. So it's good that after that, I made sure to have him kind of write out their roles, and it's, as you know, it's or maybe you don't know, I guess I should explain to listeners, it's a medieval combat brawler game. So it's like PvP. So if you can imagine, it's sort of like a MOBA on a board game. So you have your character that has two really specific moves and certain movements they can make, and then you're drawing cards that kind of affect the game as you go. But the strategies and how you use those really specific moves to kind of take out the other player, and the goal is basically just attrition, right? You just want to kill the other two. Sorry, my dog's whining. I'm gonna go let him out real quick.
Now I have to ask, what kind of dog?
As a beagle. He's
Nice.
a blue tick beagle. So
When I was a kid, I wanted a beagle more than anything, real bad. But
they're really, really loud.
yeah, that's what I hear. Everyone used to, when I was younger, I'd say, "Oh my god, I want a beagle," and they're like, "Why? They're so loud." I'm like, "I don't," because they're great. Yeah. Anyways,
He sort of sounds like when he's in full squawk mode, he sounds a bit like a parrot being run over by a car.
dogs.
Anyway, where was I? Sorry, a total distraction there.
I like some of the basic mechanics of the game, of the combat system.
Boy, maybe I should have invited Frost to tell you guys about that. I'm not exactly the best person to ask about this stuff. But the video, if you go to the Kickstarter, that can definitely explain it a bit. And there's a lot more explanation on our site, which is, I believe, brutalityboardgame.com. And the Kickstarter's at kickstarter.com/projects/brutality. And so basically, when you have the board, you just have your two characters, and they have their two characters, and it's pretty simple. Where you just every turn you draw a card, and at the beginning, before you even start, you each draw. I can't remember if it's one or two. You draw two cards that sort of affect you the whole time, I believe. I might be getting this totally wrong because the game may have changed. Because I'm focusing more on what each character does specifically.
Right.
So basically, all you need to know is that there are cards you're drawing that kind of mix up the battlefield. People can put down certain characters can put down hazard tiles,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully we can maybe get those to be 3D actually at a certain point. So someone might bring up spikes, or another person brings up like a wall. There's all sorts of things that they can do. I believe we have 11 characters slated. Hopefully we have a core 6 characters, and then there's 5 after that. Like one of my favorites is the guy he's he's an amputee and he rides a giant Iron Maiden. So he's got like this giant hook, and he's kind of like almost like a Pudge type character, or Roadhog, right? He throws the hook and can pull you in.
Mm-hmm. Just like lock him in the Iron Maiden.
Lock you in the Iron Maiden. So he's called Victor the Monarch Torturer, so that's kind of like his deal. And then there's another character that I think is really interesting is her name's Sadie, and she has a baby on her back, which is the baby is actually the son of a saint. So the saints in this game are sort of like I guess they're like gods, basically. They're like these definitely very powerful beings, basically gods, but they call them saints in the game. There's a huge rich lore that I should have probably read up more on before this. But basically she has the baby that is the son of this saint, and it's also her baby that they had together, and it kind of has like these godly powers. So she can throw her sword at someone, and then the baby will bring it back. And so that can, and what's really great about all these different unique abilities, like the God Killer, I think he shoots a big blast from his shield, or the Conjurer has Ghost Knights that rise up and they can attack players because she has a severed saint's head. But what's really cool is you can kind of like mix and match these abilities depending on the 2 characters that you pick. To play off each other, and you can actually mix and match the turns or their attacks on your turn. So it's like, imagine if you're playing Overwatch, but you got to control 2 characters at once and got to like ping pong a character back and forth between them.
That's pretty cool.
It's a kind of cool analogy, I guess. But yeah, it's super fun. I'm really terrible at board games. I get confused with all the rules, but when I've played it, I have a really good time. It's like, it's easy to pick up, but there's enough complexity that and potential strategy that you have a different game every single time, especially if you're picking 2 different, like depending on the 4 out of the 11 characters that are on the board. So yeah, it's got like elements of chess to it almost.
I'm on the page right now, and I'm kind of psyched that from the first time I looked when I earlier in the month, and you've hit a bunch of stretch goals, and one of them is that the Leviathan Hunter has been released.
Oh, yeah, we actually just hit that today, I think.
And on his card, one of his attacks is the Salty Gouge, where he goes for their eyes.
Of course, obviously.
And I'm like, I really like that. That sounds fun. I want to play this. I want to play
yeah.
He's a pirate looking like Moby Dick slaughtering guy.
Yeah,
he has like a giant harpoon weapons.
He has a bunch of teeth all over. He hunts giant sea monsters, so that's his deal. He's kind of just like this. He's Leviathan Hunter, Atticus Kilgore, and he has big spears that he'll kind of stab in. Harpoon Fury. Yeah,
I mean, I gotta hand it to him. Yeah. The guy's only lost 1 leg.
Yeah,
and it looks like from all of his trophies,
sure,
he has hunted quite the beasts.
So
the clothes are covering it up, but really he's just a head and a couple arms and a leg. That's all that's left.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So let's say while you're working on this, were you designing or making these characters to look at, as good as they do, in 2D, or like, did you also have it in mind for what they'd be turned into for minifigs?
Well, yeah. So that's the kind of the challenge. We wanted a really unique to game. Like, there aren't a lot of board games that have a style like this. I don't think I've seen one that's quite like it. We get a lot of comparisons to Darkest Dungeon, which I totally can see. I feel like Darkest Dungeon and I both just were looking at Mignola and just probably we're both huge Hellboy fans. But I can definitely see what people make the comparison. I think there's like a proportion difference. But yeah, so the challenge is making this thing in 2D, but also having to have it translate into a 3D figure, because there are figures that we've printed. We have some 3D test prints that turned out pretty well, actually. So I'm art directing the whole project as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to the 2D art, I've been doing kind of paint over. I help do paint overs, kind of directing the 3D process and getting those sculpts to where they need to be, and kind of making sure they all mesh together. So that actually is a challenge. A lot of it's I deal with that a lot though, doing concept. So I do a lot of line work, and the way I work is typically very line based. So I kind of just tried to translate that over. But what we found was when you're actually doing real figures that have to be printed and have to support themselves and not break, it's a bit harder than doing a video game character, right? In certain ways, because a video game, it's it doesn't have to deal with physics in real life.
It's not really supporting weight at all.
Right. And it's like, for instance, for swords, we need to make sure the sword is touching as much stuff as possible, like sitting on the ground, right? Or the shield. But we can't have too much negative space. We had to change, like, the God Killer. He had these kind of like big, four long skinny capes on his back, but we had to scrape those and do more of like a Boba Fett type cape, just because it was too much stuff hanging off that's just going to break off, right? So, yeah, keeping that in mind and trying to make sure that everything's really sturdy and solid, and possible to print. Sometimes it's just you can't even do it, right? So that's why we were doing 3D test prints. We changed stuff after that. Yeah, it's 3D printing is amazing in how you can actually get stuff tested out now.
It's
a lot less expensive than getting a mold made.
It's like that, even in just like the past 5 years, it's just you can go to the store and buy a 3D printer, and now you can start making test figures for your project. It's unbelievable.
Totally. Yeah, and so instead of having because to make one of these characters costs thousands of dollars just to get it started, right? So once you get your mold made, then it's a bit less on the production side, but there's a huge upfront cost. That's why you see so many board game Kickstarters, because there's this huge upfront cost to getting these figures actually just started. That first one is the most expensive one, right? And yeah, it's anyway, yeah, I hope that answers the question. It's definitely a challenge to try to I've never done it before. I've never had to design stuff that would be made in real life like this. So
is it something that you would like? Would you want to pursue this in the future, or is this kind of a like this was good?
No, I think it's super fun. Like, it's like a year of work,
right.
Because I have a full-time job and I'm doing other work and I have 3 kids and 2 dogs and a couple cats, and the life's crazy. So like I did most of this on the bus, actually.
Damn.
Just on my little iPad Pro, just doodling, trying, holding the iPad up so that I can try and draw while people are bumping against me. And
so, all right, I want to switch styles.
Sure.
Cause looking at, like, I'm on your ArtStation page, your koryface.artstation.
Artstation.com/koryface. Kory with a K.
Right. And so I'm scrolling through because this is where I could find like the best set of your stuff right now. And like looking at your Halo work, which is completely a different style than what you've done for Brutality. And even on your Instagram, there's a few parts where it's like, here's, you drew like 20 different helmets. And then I'm like, at what point do you, it's like, how many more types of helmets do Spartans need? Was the one not good enough?
Well, apparently in Halo 5, they needed 100 different types of helmets. I think that was the number, was 100 100 different armors. And, it's interesting with Halo, we get, there's a very vocal core fan base with Halo. And I don't know how much the general population of Halo people who buy and play Halo feel. But a lot of the people I think they had some issues with the directions that were taken artistically with Halo 4 and 5, which is, it's a bit disappointing when you worked on it. But luckily, you'll see you'll see someone post, I'll see on Reddit, someone posted some preliminary sketches of Fred and talk about how they liked those, because I feel like people thought that maybe we went, I don't know. I've seen people say that we felt Japanese aesthetic too much. They look like Power Rangers, or they're not quite matching what they felt Halo should be. I personally really like where it went, because I think that if you go back and look at, I'm a huge Halo fan. If you go back and look at Halo, the earlier Halos, they were limited quite a bit by the tech, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that you would have had totally different designs if they'd been able to do more polys, right? Because a lot of the Forerunner structures are very simple, and maybe it's hard to say, what woulda, shoulda, coulda, but yeah, we had basically, to answer your question, we had to somehow, there's a real challenge where these Spartans all have to have the exact same hitbox, right? Where a hitbox is where
Yeah.
If people don't know, that's where you shoot at the character, and that's where the bullet will hit them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't have a bunch of wild silhouettes, which in character design is usually your first. It's usually your first strategy to make a character look different. Is
Right.
that far read? So the outside silhouette, you want that to look really different, character to character. But if you look at most Spartans from 100 feet away, they look pretty much exactly the same. So a lot of that was in trying to push those silhouettes without breaking the hitbox, and trying to stay in these very strict parameters. And it's really difficult. That's why people go, well, why are they doing helmets without visors? I'm like, well, we just want to have different looking helmets. We can't, you only have so many helmets with visors that you can do that until they just start looking almost exactly the same to one that's been existing before, right?
I never got why the visor was a thing.
It's pretty impractical.
They have these helmets that you can't see through the screen anyway. They're
Right.
windshield of a face mask.
Hey man, it's where their heads up display is. It shows them their shields and stuff.
Sure.
It's
I
on
like
the
idea
visor.
that it's projected, like, basically, if you've played Titanfall, it's like projected inside the visor. You see the cameras are just showing you, and then your face is more protected. That's kind of what I personally, again, everyone has different opinions, and it's hard to please everybody. But I think, obviously, I really appreciate Halo fans, and I think that you definitely want to make sure that core base is really happy. So I actually think they're trying to make changes to respond to that. I think that that's something they have in mind. But one thing that was really funny was I did this helmet for Halo 4. It's called the Scanner helmet, and I think that's what it's called. It's got this big, huge visor on it, and there are a few GIFs. I don't know where you guys stand on how to pronounce that word.
GIFs.
There's a few.
We're on the GIF.
I'm a GIF person. There's a few.
You're the right person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not graphics. Yeah. Anyway, there are a few GIFs where they took the helmet and they have it shooting toast out. Or there's one where it transforms into the Virtual Boy. Right. Or one where it's got a floppy disk getting shoved in, or shooting CDs. It's really, it's kind of funny to see where how people react, and I'm kind of proud that it got made fun of. I'm kind of happy about it. Well, the worst thing is that they're not talking about it at all, right? So.
Right.
If you can make something where more people play with it on the internet, then you've made it.
Yeah,
sure.
And
my crowning achievement, the thing I'm most proud of probably in life, except I guess my children, would be there is a, I can't talk right now. There's an action figure of the Helios Girl armor I designed. So I'm like, when does it come out? I'm like pre-ordering on Amazon, so I have a few of those. And then there's another one where they put the Locust helmet, which I did. That's on an armor that also got made into a toy. So I was really excited. I gave one to my kids, put it on a shelf in their room, and then The others I have squirreled away.
It's pretty, and coming from back in the day, and I've talked about it pretty frequently. I used to be pretty big into the Halo scene. I remember my friend, good friend of mine, bought me an Xbox 360 for Christmas because he wanted to play video games with me, and he knew I couldn't afford one. And then a friend of mine lent me Halo because I'd never played Halo before, and he lent me Halo 3, and I was immediately addicted, and I got into the competitive scene. Like I used to watch MLG on the weekends, and it was bad. It was really bad. And
I bet I've been there. I failed classes because of Halo too.
And like the armor and especially some of the helmets. I know back in Halo 3, like you could only get this helmet if you did X, and a lot of them were like status symbols. It's like, yo, what helmet you rocking? Look, you just have the Scout. Who gives a shit? You know, like, but like, you know, a lot of people, they care about their armor. You know, like
totally,
for something that does not matter. A lot of people, because especially like in terms of
doesn't matter in the game.
Yeah, it doesn't impact, you know, like your hitboxes, like you were saying. You know, like if you get shot in the head, you get shot in the head. But
right.
It's,
oh man, yeah. People love Master Chiefs. They just, I think they want visors. They like visors because that's Halo, right? Master Chiefs. Right. Yeah, So actually, it's the Helios Girl one, the one that I was saying got made into a toy. It's my first action figure, my bucket list number one. That's you have to. They had a thing where you had to beat the Master Chief collection, like all of the Halo 1, 2, 3 on Legendary to earn that. So in game, and then there's a different version, I guess, that you can unlock if you get lucky in Halo 5. But I wish that they did more of that stuff. I think that stuff's really cool, where you have to actually do something that's not just randomly unlocking it in a pack that you buy, right? You have to actually earn it.
Right.
I think people really wear that as a badge of honor. So
that is cool. The first time I ever learned about what hitboxes were was watching Rooster Teeth.
Oh yeah.
and the guys from Red vs. Blue were doing they would watch other people's gameplay. I forgot the name of the series now, but it ran for like at least 100 episodes. I loved it. And there was one scene where a player shot a rocket at one of the flying vehicles, but it was like a troop drop off where there was a big gap in the middle of it where like there's doors, and the missile went straight through the other side. And you're like, oh, that's an open hitbox on that. I never would have thought that's a thing, apparently. And I was like, what's a hitbox?
Yeah, they're like shocked that game hasn't.
Of all the things that game
what? Yeah,
he's so strong he'd flip a tank over and then still has recoil on his gunfire.
They're strong guns.
Yeah, or like, oh, you can punch someone so hard that they'll die immediately, but you can't punch a window. You can't break a window.
Let me just flip over this warthog here.
If it's not like a too much of a boring origin question, like how'd you get that job to work for designing for Halo?
Oh, you just beg.
Fair enough.
So I was working. Let's see. I mean, there was like the whole economic downturn, and I was really struggling to find work. And then I finally managed to get up here at a little studio called Gript, and they were doing. They did I think they did a Shinobi game. They were doing what were those? What was that Marvel property where they had Marvel, but they had big heads? It was like it's like a kid's version of Marvel. There were these old Marvel games,
like the Superhero Friends or something.
See, I don't remember.
Yeah. It didn't really have a catchy name or anything.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was like a chibi Marvel.
Yeah.
But then I was working on a little bit of that, and then also we were just doing pitches for Atari games. So we made like Warlords. We remade that for Atari, and then there were actually on LinkedIn. I got a message about 343 looking for a contractor, and so I applied for that, and I worked really hard and did some new stuff and applied and got rejected. And so then I just there was another one that came up for a junior concept artist, and I begged I talked to the recruiter, and I was just like, please tell them that if there's something missing in my portfolio, tell me what to do. I'll do an art test. I'll draw anything that they want, just to show that I can do this job. And so they were nice enough to give me an art test. I don't know if that was even. I think they were just kind of looking for contractors, and so I don't know if that's even a common thing. But yeah, they just gave me a Halo Reach concept, and I did a turnaround, and I got the job. So it was a contracting job, right? So those are a little bit different than like a full-time job. It's more a temporary thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I got in. And then when I went to WildStar, I came back for another contract, and that was more of kind of just like, hey, do you guys need concept? And they said, yeah, you want to come up? And I said, sure. It was pretty much the shortest job interview I've ever had. It was like about 5 minutes on a Facebook message. So
I bet people would like more of those.
yeah, I mean, it was
only.
once they know you, and it's like when the contract ends, it's not because they don't want you there. It's just that the contract's up, right? And you're month to month until they decide they're not going to pay your contract anymore. So a lot of video game companies do that, where they have sort of their core full-time people, and then contractors come and go. So it's not the most ideal situation, but it's a super huge honor to get to work on Halo. It's one of my favorite IPs. So
It's just one of those games that has that constant following, Like,
right.
Like I said, I got into it late. I got into it real late. And I was one of those people who hated it just because it was the thing that everyone else loved.
I did too. I was like, oh, Halo again. I can't believe you're doing that. And then my friends just were playing it so often that I just started doing it because I was bored, and then I got really addicted.
Yep. It was like going to the Halo Reach midnight release. Aside from Super Smash Brothers Brawl, it was like the only other midnight release I've ever gone to a video game for, and like, I did it again for Halo 4. A friend of mine like spent the night. Right. We were like mid-20s, like trying to pretend we were still teenagers when really it's like 11 o'clock, and it's like, dude, I'm tired, man. Do we really want to do this?
I've got plans tomorrow.
I have to go to work. He had to go to work.
We could just go buy it. We could just go buy it tomorrow. You just walk in and buy it. It takes 5 minutes.
And then we won't be tired and really like.
Yeah.
But
well, that was back when games would run out. If you didn't go wait in line, you'd have to wait.
Yeah. Yep.
Now you just order it on Amazon, and it shows up at your house.
Or you just download it,
or download it. Yeah.
Oh, I played the beta. Like, I was a tester for the beta. So I got early access streaming.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's crazy how the gaming culture in general has shifted. But Halo it always has that hardcore group of fans. Unfortunately, I fell out of the I unfortunately didn't keep up with Xbox. I don't have an Xbox One, so I'm kind of out of Halo myself. But a friend of mine has one, and like with the new Halo, you can play like the old versions of it, and it's
right.
I went over a couple weeks ago, and we booted up Halo 3 on Pit, and it was just
awesome,
gorgeous. Like, God, I love that game. But
I should go back and play too. Halo 5 actually has, in my opinion, it has the best multiplayer mechanics of the whole franchise. Like, it's just so fun because they added some really cool mobility stuff.
Right.
When I saw them putting ground pound in the game, I was like, that's so dumb. Why are you guys doing that? It feels so gamey. And then I started using it, and I was like, I can't stop ground pounding people. I would just climb up to the top of the thing and just wait and just try and ground pound the whole time because it was so satisfying. I don't care about my score. I care about ground pounds.
Ground pounding, and I mean, like, and little did people know, like, they're playing with one of the people who made the game possible.
You just got ground pounded by the guy that drew that.
Yeah. If it wasn't for me, it wouldn't have looked like that.
One of the things I want to ask about is some of your character design class. Your
oh, sure.
The teaching?
Yeah. Because I've seen like a couple links for these. I saw one when I was scanning your Instagram stuff, and then where was it?
I'm a shameless self promoter.
Well, hey, you got to do it somehow.
We are shameless in promoting other
you
people.
got to do it.
And then I also
appreciate that.
I saw I reviewed like the promo video that was on GameArtInstitute.com. If that is a current one.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure. I did that a while ago. They still sell like an on demand. I guess I should look up that link in case you. If you go to my Facebook's open, and you could probably find the link through there. But I just got contacted a while back to do this class, and like I'm not, I'm like I don't know how to teach, so I just tried to approach it the way that I like to learn,
Mm-hmm.
which is I like to just see how people work, right? Like I like to, and also giving feedback. So I would focus on giving feedback and saying, here's what I would do, and drawing over stuff for people, because I feel like seeing something and then how someone that you want to learn from would change it is a good way to learn. Because that's kind of how I remember back in college, I took a class from a guy named Ryan Woodward, who's really amazing animator and artist. And, he would just go through, that was how he did class. Like he would kind of go through that first hour. Everyone would put their art on the good, bad, and medium walls. And then it's kind of interesting how that would work, where I don't do that in my class, but I liked that, where if I ever teach a class, I think I might implement it. But if I can figure out how to do it digitally over a web meeting. But so I thought that was a really cool way to do it. And then because then he would pick a few to kind of go over and just talk about how it could improve. And then he would kind of draw for us or show us art and kind of show us videos of people working. So that's kind of how I tried to do it. And I when I first did the class, I probably spent way too much time doing individual feedback, but I was a really good learning experience for me, because it kind of helped me to understand how I need to improve. So I'm not sure what else to say about it. I have a link if I can give that out if you are interested. I think they do sell it on Game Art Institute, but if you go through my link, it's better for me.
Okay, do that.
It's www.gameartinstitute.com/A/3980/NAVWUMZZ, or you can just go to my Facebook and scroll down past all the anti-Trump posts and art posts and brutality posts and find it. Sorry, I shouldn't get political. It's like sometimes I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't be posting this on my Facebook page where I'm trying to gain art followers, but
you're gaining the right type of followers.
Yeah. Listen.
We don't do a lot of political stuff because we figure people don't come to us for that. But if something slips out once in a while, oh well.
Yeah, if you vote for Trump, that's your choice. I respect you. You just have to look past my posts about it if you want to sign up for my class.
And you have to live with it. You got to live with yourself. Apparently, I don't know how anyone. Anyways, politics, am I right?
One of our previous guests, I believe, did you say John Boy follows him?
I believe, yeah.
So
we were lurking your followers. Don't hate us.
Okay.
Because I like to see like what because I said I follow a lot of artists, so that I can see what they're up to and see if at some point I can contact them and have them on the show. But then I always wonder like how much do they care who's following them?
Like the overlap.
Yeah. It's like Jake Parker follows you, the guy who like made Inktober.
Oh, it's funny. He taught at the school I went at BYU, which is where I went to school, and he started teaching like right after I left. I was pretty bummed about that. Or if you know who Sam Nielsen is, I had his class scheduled and I had to drop it for anyway. I didn't end up getting to take his class, and that was a huge regret. But yes, I definitely care. Like, do you guys know who Joe Madureira?
Oh yeah.
He occasionally will comment on something I post and give me a compliment, and it's like, it gives me the vapors. I have to sit down, put my head between my legs, take a drink of water. Sometimes I'll wake up the next day and not know what happened. But occasionally that happens and it just blows my mind. Or he and the biggest compliment ever was that he tweeted about brutality, and I died.
Recently, one of our previous guests was John Boy Myers, and I was talking about a lot of his design work, because when he would get hired onto a new book, he might do a redesign of the team or whatever, comic caps working on at the time, which previously was Teen Titans, and we were talking a lot about the Inhumans, which, looking at your stuff, I feel like, a lot of the same thoughts apply, where it's like, if someone tells me to, like, hey, do makeup and design some horns for this demon, you're getting one set of horns, right?
You're getting the horns. These are my horns. You can take my horns if you like them.
And just looking at like one page of your sketching or, whatever, it's like, there's like 30 sets of horns. I'm like, and I don't even know how I would make it past 2.
That is a really tough thing. You're right, though. It's the same thing with helmets. It's like, how many configurations of a visor and a motocross helmet can I do? Wait, John Boy follows me where?
Instagram.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to...
we were doing some hardcore lurking. Don't mind us.
Wow. I can't even keep up. It's like, you gotta keep up on the Instagram and now Twitter, and I feel like I can't even get people on Twitter. I don't know how people gain followers so quickly on these new
they buy them
social media. It's crazy. Yeah, I just buy them.
Give up on Facebook while you're at it.
Yeah, Facebook's dying. That's where I used to get a lot of traffic, was Facebook, and now I would get 500 likes posting anything, and now it seems like it's a lot less. So kind of depressing.
Yep.
I think people are a bit scattered, right? Like they're a bit overwhelmed with all the social media options. And also the algorithms changed. Anyway.
Yeah, it's rough. It's like you mentioned the algorithms and how it's like, X amount of people follow us, but 1/16 of them saw the actual post. And if you pay us, we'll make sure more people see it. But
and I tried promoting on Instagram to get people over to Brutality, but it seems like that's just not the. I think we maybe got a few from my promotions. So I don't know. It's kind of upsetting. Like, you definitely get people seeing it, but then only a few people click, and then it just like the numbers go down every step you need them to take. Unfortunately.
Yeah. But I mean, it is pretty rad that Brutality was able to be funded in it was on the page, like 26 hours or something like that. 29 hours.
29 hours. Yeah, it's kind of like just say a day.
It's funded in a day.
You want to be honest, right? But,
of course. But
I was gonna say, with the horn thing, that's like the main struggle as a concept artist. You go to ArtStation and you see a billion amazing artists, and you're like, how can I possibly even be employed right now? How is this even happening that I get paid? Because I feel like everything's already been drawn in a certain way, but there's always like a new way to draw everything that is something you find if you just hammer your head at the wall enough, just keep smashing your face against the against the Cintiq screen. So you just try and change the silhouette and find new stuff and hope somebody else hasn't come up with it recently. And then you go back 30 years and you just start over again and just start copying old stuff, I guess. I don't know. It's tough.
Combining all the efforts, because it used to be like, well, you use your pencil on a piece of paper and this is the thing you've made, and then that's what you try to sell. Whereas now, like, there's so many systems and technologies and programs and multiple programs to use. Like, is there like a disconnect of how to keep up, or do you just work with what's best for you?
I've pretty much just used Photoshop my whole career, but I dabble. I've been trying to learn 3D on the sidelines here, just just so that I know it, to make myself, a little more employable, relevant. And there are some people who do some crazy cool concept work using ZBrush, and maybe not for like a finished character, but as a step along the way. But I'm such a dummy with that stuff. I have a hard time. I have to like bug my friends all the time. Like, how do you do this? Dude, you just asked me 5 minutes ago.
And now I'm asking you again.
Yeah, just tell me. Just point to what it is. So yeah, it's, and I feel like with, I try and use Maya, and I'll get in the program and I'll watch a tutorial and go, oh, that looks really easy. And then it just explodes when I try to do it. It's like, you just click this button. Oh, my computer just melted into a solid block.
Welcome to the world of digital art.
So yeah, I mostly just stick to, I draw with pen. I do my stupid spaceships on my sketchbook page, and then I draw on my iPad. That's the other thing. I guess I have adopted Procreate and the iPad Pro as one of my main tools now. So that's kind of cool. It feels really good to draw on, and Procreate doesn't have like that full capability that Photoshop has, where you can kind of manipulate and change things, and there's all the filters and stuff. But as far as just like a simple drawing and painting app, it's fantastic. So if you're not wanting to go spend $2,500 on a Cintiq, I would definitely recommend an iPad Pro to just get started with digital art. And if you like that, then you could keep going. There's other options too. So, but
just make art.
Yeah, just draw. And I don't know if anyone, maybe this is something artists go over, like for people who are learning to draw or want to, if you're interested in taking a class, or feel like they want to be a professional artist. The most important thing you can do is just draw like crazy every single day. I get asked every single day. I get emails and Facebook messages. Hey, can you look over my portfolio? Tell me what's better, or how can I improve? And I'm like, honestly, there's really only one way to improve, and that's just draw from life. I have kind of like I have a little schedule. I'll copy and paste it, but draw 5 sketch pages from your head a day. Draw 5 sketch pages from life a day. Try to emulate a master. So like find a master painting and copy one of those every week at least. And then try to paint either from a photo or real life of an environment. And then also on top of that, try to add a portfolio piece every single week and remove an old one. So that's something that I personally ought to do. But that's what I tell people to do, because that's like what I did do for years. And now, I mean, I draw. I don't think people understand how much professional artists like have to draw to stay relevant, but it's over 12 hours a day at least for me.
Right.
At least. So get drawing, painting.
You're saying all this, and I'm like, wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
It's tough out there. Yeah.
But if that's
tough out there.
If you have to do what it takes, then it's
Yes.
if you want to do the work, you have to get hired. It's like hearing Joe Rogan talk about Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. It's like, as hard as you think you're working, watch this man work. It's like he's working harder than you.
He literally never stops.
And and especially, I see people on Facebook and they're like, oh, I did another full character concept fully painted in my spare time before bed after work. And I'm like, I have 3 kids. How do you find time to do that?
I took a nap.
Yeah, I was a jungle gym for 3 hours.
But
But
as we get toward wrapping up here, I know we're a little short on time here.
Sure.
We've been talking a lot about your stuff. We've mentioned a couple places where people can go check it out. We did mention the Kickstarter, which has as of literally right now, and I'm gonna try to get this up. This will typically be up within the next day or so. There's about 6 days to go, so probably by the time you're hearing this, if you're listening to it the day it was released, it's probably about 4 days left. And then I imagine, who knows, maybe down the future you'll be able to purchase the game if it's something that sounds
definitely there will be opportunities to purchase it after. The main benefit of this initial Kickstarter of backing it is that you get those. You get 5 extra characters free, so those will be sold separately. So that's pretty good value, I think, to get those included in your core box along with the original 6 characters. So that's the reason that you would want to back it now, and also get your friends to back it so that we can hit those stretch goals by the. I'm pretty sure we'll hit them. Every little bit helps. So yeah. If you just Google brutality and Kickstarter, it'll come right up. So.
Where else can people go to find your stuff if they're so inclined?
On Instagram, you can find me at Kory Hubbell. It's KoryLynn. Yes, I have a girl's name. Hubbell, Hubbell. So Kory Hubbell for Instagram, and then on ArtStation, it's artstation.com/Koryface. So. That's kind of the main. Kory with a K. That's the place I usually send people. You can also go to KoryLynnHubbell.com. Sorry, I hope that wasn't offensive when I say it's a girl, but it really, it really is though.
I think it's a rad name. It's better than Jeremy.
I think my mom wanted a girl. Sorry, Jeremy, but my name's cool and yours is dumb.
I'm cool with a K, so. But you can go and check out all of Kory's work. I've been literally for the last 45 minutes, I've been transitioning between the Facebook over to the Kickstarter, over to the ArtStation. Coming from a. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a veteran. I don't even want to say I'm a veteran because I played. I started at Halo 3, and I played. It's cool to know that back in whenever Halo 4 came out. I can't remember when that was, like 2012. I don't know. It's cool to think that
something like that.
Seeing your work and I, for the record, I thought Halo 4 was dope. But
I liked Halo. I like Halo 4. I think people. A lot of people like it, and some people maybe don't like it, but that's okay.
It was definitely different. Obviously it was coming off of Reach, which a lot of people like that Reach really like kind of split the community between like the competitive and blah, blah, blah. And then Halo 4 came out, and it was definitely different, but shit, man, I enjoyed it. I stayed up until like 4 a.m. playing it that first night. But
when Reach was out, I saw lots of people online complaining about it, and now all I see is, I wish we could have Reach back.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
Opinions change over time.
Unbelievable how that, like, when Halo 3 was in its prime, everyone was talking about how Halo 3 is trash. Give me Halo 2 back. Halo 2 is the OG. And now all I see on the internet is, man, I wish I can go back to Complex, Slayer BRs. Those are the days, man. It's like, what are you talking about?
You just got to wait for that nostalgia to kick in. And that's when you make the big bucks.
Exactly. That's when the money starts flowing. You put it on T-shirts. But you can go check out, the Kickstarter if you want to check out the game. Board games are massive right now. This looks like another great one to add to the collection. I'm not even getting paid to say that. You can check out Kory's work on Instagram. Just fantastic stuff, man.
Thank you.
We might have to revisit you in the future so we can talk more about your art, because it's fantastic.
I did have to hold back on some questions too.
I know. Yeah, we're even a little over. So thanks again, Kory, for giving us a chunk of your time. This was a blast, man. And congrats on the Kickstarter. Congrats on all the work that with all the video game. It's rad, man. Just a big bundle of congrats.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, maybe I'll be back for Kickstarter too. I think we have plans to extend that franchise beyond. So,
dope.
I'll let you know.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Brutality too. Yeah,
Brutality 2.
Yeah.
This time it's personal.
Brutality.
Brutality. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. If you need, if you want to contract us for
some consulting work,
we're
here.
We're available. We can come up with the worst name possible. But we are. We'll wrap up now. Kory, thanks again so much for coming on. This was a blast. And best of luck with all the future works and Kickstarters and all that.
All right.
So I believe that's going to do it. So until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Kory Hubbell.
and this has been episode Where I lost it again. 315 of opinions may vary.